Oh, I didn't see you there. I was just playing this hot new release, and I've always heard that the hottest new releases are best played with a gamepad, so let's give it a shot. Yeah, I don't know what you guys are pulling. This is pretty jank. I'm gonna have to give him a bad review. Well, you guys could have told me these buttons do things earlier. Games need a way to play them, and if you're not the Microsoft HoloLens, you're gonna want some buttons. And with consoles, you get what they give you, more or less. You could get something third-party, but for the most part, what you get is going to be licensed by and look like the one you get from the console manufacturer. When it comes to PC, however, anything goes. There's been gamepads for PC of all sorts, ranging from joysticks to traditional gamepads to whatever the Asus E-Stick was trying to accomplish. These days, Valve is really the only company honestly making a controller solely for PC. The most popular PC gamepads are the same ones the consoles are using. The DualShock 4, the Xbox One wireless gamepad, and the Switch Pro controller. Still, despite that, a lot of people like to argue over how they play their games, so how about we compare and contrast keyboards and mice versus the gamepad? I should note that for this video, I'm just using the Switch Pro controller, but anyways, let's get comparing. First off, the gamepad is by far easier to manage. I mean, you look at this bad boy, bam, that's for gaming. I mean, you find a guy who hasn't played a game since Donkey Kong and hand him one of these things, and the first thing he'll say is, I don't know how to work this joystick, but then you bust out the old out-of-touch 40-year-old English translator and bing bang boom, we're talking gamepads. It's clearly only for gaming. I mean, look at this thing, right? That's for filing taxes. You can't do your business work on a... okay. Another boon about gamepads is you're looking at a thing with like at most 20 buttons. With a keyboard, you're talking like 50 at least. Mine has nearly 80, and that's not counting the mouse. You pick up a gamepad and your thumbs naturally sit right by the control sticks, your index fingers land right on shoulder buttons. Getting to your face buttons is easy, everything's just in the right place. With a keyboard and mouse, once you get used to WASD, you have RF, Shift, Tab, Control, all clustered right there. But on your typical keyboard, it's easy to press the wrong key if you're not used to WASD yet. So there's the general gist, but how are they in action? Well, if your game starts with one of these, you know you're in for a treat when you're playing with the keyboard. Buttons are going to be all over the place, and while you could learn to play with a keyboard, it really isn't comfortable. Gamepads though, yeah, those work just fine. There's plenty of 2D platformers and beat-em-ups I feel benefit from a mouse and keyboard, but they're mostly gamepad games. Now twin-stick shooters, yeah, I'd gladly ditch twin-stick and just point at things with the mouse. These days, there really aren't many of these on PC. Gmod Tower had a great one that to my knowledge has not been ported to its spiritual successor Tower Unite, and Hotline Miami only marginally counts. Furthermore, the first game lacks proper gamepad support, so that's just kind of a lost cause to begin with. Also, on the topic of platformers, 3D platformers I feel are just best with a gamepad. I mean, that's kind of how I grew up playing them. I mean, Hat in Time with keyboard and mouse works, but Pro Controller, Italian chef, First-person shooters are where things get tricky. I get the appeal of playing one of these on console. They're easy to pick up and they really can't be messed up too bad because there's such a limited number of buttons arranged ergonomically, but they're typically a little too, motion controls help when they're done right. When it comes to console games, I think that gyro controls, if done right, are definitely going to be a huge part of making them feel more like PC games. But I think there needs to be some sort of limit. In my opinion, when I draw a bow or I'm aiming down the sights, turn on gyro controls then. Turn them off when I'm done. Don't have them on all the time. It just isn't for me. But if I have the choice between FPS with a gamepad and FPS with a mouse, yeah, I'm going for the mouse. This is definitely the best way to play in FPS. It's a lot of precision, everything just feels good. When it comes to simulators and strategy games, nothing beats the mouse and keyboard. That said, there's been plenty of great console strategies like Sid Meier's Civilization on SNES. Oh, that used the mouse. Oh, SimCity. SimCity on SNES didn't have mouse support. People liked that one. I mean, SimCity on the Super Nintendo is the best one. Let's be real. It had Bowser in it. The new ones don't have Bowser in it. I mean, this is an objective opinion. It is the best one, and I have no biases whatsoever. I mean, if you're used to a gamepad, you're probably going to want a gamepad, and if you're used to a mouse, you're probably going to want a mouse. Now that sounds like a, well, duh statement, but like that affects a lot of things. Platformers are much more popular on consoles like the NES and Genesis than on PC, so when a platformer comes to PC, it's likely going to have you use the arrow keys and control for some weird reason, whereas gamepad controls are going to be exactly what you'd expect. Strategy games were most popular on PCs for years, so when they make the jump to consoles, they're either using touchscreen controls, they use the control stick like a cursor, or just straight up have you plug a mouse into the console like with Civ. But either way, one thing's clear. The true winner between mouse, keyboard, and gamepad is the one you're most comfortable with. Developers will continue to push their own agendas, but in these days, with remappable keys and the like, there's not too much to fret about. Steam lets you remap your games even if the game won't let you, so I'd argue that as long as you have one that you're comfortable with, you can go with either a good mouse and keyboard or a good gamepad. I personally will stick to keyboard and mouse for first-person and third-person games, as well as more complex games like city builders and life sims, but I'll break out the gamepad for platformers. But, I mean, at the bottom of it, as long as you're having fun with the game, how you play it isn't a big deal. How you play your games isn't a significant concern as long as you're having fun with them. And between a good keyboard and mouse and a good gamepad, there isn't a right answer, just a lot of subjective ones. Is what a loser would say. See, that's all behind us now because I've been prototyping this hybrid between keyboard, mouse, and gamepad. And it's going to take the world by storm. Damn it. This was dumb.